About living in West Lafayette is how passionate this town is about education, and it's amazing to see everybody out here, and I'm very thankful that my kids get to grow up in this type of environment. We're all very lucky. I ran for school board 2 years ago. That was when there were 15 candidates for 4 seats, and I had a fantastic experience, even though I didn't do very well in the actual vote. It was a lot of fun, and the most fun thing for me was being out there and meeting people and getting to meet so many fantastic people in the community and hearing about what they care about. So I wanted to try to create an event that is more relaxed and conversational in nature, rather than just being able to read candidate statements on a website or hear 15-second sound bites about their positions on different issues. I wanted to give the community an opportunity to really try to get to know the candidates, and also for them to hear from you. And there's nothing that can replace a one-on-one conversation to get to know somebody, but hopefully we can mimic that as best as possible here. I'm really excited to have everybody out here. It's great that we have 6 wonderful candidates running for the 3 positions on the school board this year. I know that all of them care about the kids and just want what's best for the kids. So no matter what happens on November 8th, I'm confident the school is going to be in really good hands. Before we get started, I'll have an agenda I'll kind of talk through, but I do want to make an apology. I made a big mistake when I scheduled this. I did not consult the NFL schedule. And unfortunately, this is Colts game night, right? So kickoff's 8:15. If you sneak out the back to get your kickoff, I'm not going to hold it against you. But seriously, come and go as you need to. Restrooms are out by the refrigerator aisle, I think. We're in a grocery store, so feel free to go out and grab a drink, a snack. There's waters up here if you want something. So just feel free to come and go as you need to. For the agenda, we'll start with a up to 5-minute introduction for the candidates. I'll turn on a timer. If you get close, I'll let you know. We'll go in random order, so we'll randomize that order here in a second. After that, open up to the questions to the audience. We'll randomize that as well, so everybody gets a chance, hopefully, to ask their question. If there's time at the end, then we'll give the candidates, again in random order, a chance to make a couple minutes closing statement, depending on how much time is left. We do have to be out of here at 8:30. Fresh Thyme closes at 9, and they want us out, so we can get picked up, and they can clean, and all of those things, and they can close, and employees don't have to stay late. So we'll make sure we're respectful of that and get out of here by 8:30. All right, so candidates, we'll get started with your opening statements. So in order to randomize this, run a deck of cards. Got 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so I'll let you each draw a card. Number 1 will go first, 2 second, 3 third.
Why do I feel like I'm in the Hunger Games?
Oh, I was thinking he was going to do card tricks.
No, but you are welcome to, Troy, if you would like. Right.
So if you brought your bow and arrow and I didn't.
So who has number 1? Lucky number 1. All right, Angie.
May the odds be ever in your favor.
I'm feeling it. Okay. I was talking to a friend last week about the election, and she said, it's kind of like Parks and Rec on steroids. And I laughed, but the reality is we're not Eagleton, and we're not Pawnee, and this is not Hollywood. Nor is it particularly funny a lot of the time, although it has its moments. But I find it not very funny that in 2015 it was announced that our schools would embark on a $50 million construction project. By 2020, the school district had borrowed $95 million, and $7.4 million was supposed to flow to the school corporation, but was kept off corporation financial statements. The remaining $88 million of debt was approved by the school board, but is unaudited and unavailable for public review. The SBOA found that during the construction projects, the school corporation had inadequate internal controls over cash. So these are verifiable facts, and I would ask each of you to fact check me. And then, once you take those facts and do a little math, it shows that we went 90% over budget. I think that's pretty significant. So why did the board vote to approve this? I really do believe that the board is comprised of hardworking, diligent people who have given a lot of time and service to our community, and I am really grateful for that. But they're also really good soldiers for the administration, and I feel like it has, to me, been shown that they have a focus that the school board is more administrative and less on oversight. So the problem with that is that being a good administrator is not the same thing as being a good leader with vision for where we can be and oversight. So I think it's time for fresh eyes on the board with a vision beyond where we are and the leadership skills to get us there. So I would like to describe my vision of what our schools could be. First of all, I think we need to maintain the academic excellence that we're known for. I think we need to attract and retain the best teachers by reducing class sizes and providing professional and financial support and job security. I think we need to focus on financial accountability and just stop the bleeding. I think we need to implement better internal controls and provide more oversight than a periodic glance at the credit card statements. We could foster a natural flow of information and dialogue between the community and the school administration. We could solve problems together. We could identify underserved students, including special ed and high ability, and promote academic flexibility to meet their needs. We could strive for a more inclusive and kind school environment that celebrates diversity and is kind and equitable to all. So this is a glimpse into my vision for the schools. And it might sound like wishful thinking, but I would like to share 3 words with you, if that's what you're thinking. These are from Mahatma Gandhi, and he said, "Action expresses priorities." Here's what I've already done to help us get there. I have advocated for many priorities with hours of research, public comments, emails, surveys, community collaboration, and sharing my notes from public meetings. And this action has resulted in some really positive changes that I'm excited about. Among them, we have new legal counsel for the school corporation that is not overcharging us to spend his time intimidating stakeholders and denying access to information. We now have public release of the board meeting packet information, public release of the board president's notes. These are all a great step toward improved transparency. For financial management, we have made progress. We discovered the $95 million in debt, which is the second highest in the state for debt to student ratio. We discovered the red flags that led to the SBOA audit findings of material misstatements. And we have helped to inform the community so that better decisions can be made going forward. For diversity and inclusion, I was a contributing writer for a more inclusive parent council newsletter for the high school. I have participated in diversity town halls and DRT meetings. I have supported efforts to form a DEI committee. There is so much more to do. These are great steps, but they're only the beginning. But action expresses priorities. I have acted. You can see my priorities, and you can trust that I will keep fighting for these causes if I am elected. So since Brady was kind enough to give us 5 minutes to speak, I have time to conclude with some epic Leslie Knope quotes.
Minus 10 seconds.
Oh, minus 10, never mind. You'll have to ask me later for my epic Leslie Knope quotes. Thanks.
Number 2.
Yes.
All right, Laurence, thank you.
Thank you. First of all, thank you, Brady, to have host this forum, and thank you everybody to show up. Yeah, recently I see a lot of people, so I'm very glad to see people here. Probably all you guys pretty much all know me later, or more or less know about me. So basically, my name is Laurence Wang, and I'm a resident of West Lafayette for about 10 years. So our family moved here 2012. And my wife and I have 2 kids. So both of them are currently in West Lafayette Junior Senior High School. One is in 7th grade, another one is in 8th grade. And regarding my education, I have a bachelor degree in business administration, and a master's degree in finance, and a second master's degree in management information system. And after school years, after graduating from school, I work as a business analyst in many industries, such as commercial insurance and the consulting companies, manufacturing companies, healthcare insurance companies, software IT companies. So I work in many energy companies. So work in many companies as a business analyst. So I know a lot about companies, how they run business. And talk to the reason why I'm running for the school board. I believe the West Lafayette CSC and the school board should represent our community's voice and interest in the public education. And our board should conduct its business in a transparent and accountable manner. So I'm running for the school board because I believe our school board should represent and serve our community in that way, in a accountable and transparent manner. So, and also, I mean, look at our corporation, the school board is not, it's pretty big. It's quite a serious business. We have, every year we have over 30 million budget, and we serve over 2,000 full-time students, and we have about 200 full-time full-time teachers, staff members over here. So that's a pretty serious business. So I think this kind of company, really complex corporation, really need a governing board that collectively have a full range of skills and experience. And from that point of view, I believe my educational and professional experience in finance and business will be a plus for the school board. So together with other board members and the stakeholders, administrations, I think we can work together to improve our school and enhance, provide the best education to our children. And regarding the top issues in my mind, one is the lack of internal control system. So that's very important because in terms of transparency, the first thing is you have to have a clear and reliable financial report. And that's a starting point for transparency. So if elected, I would promote a well-designed and effectively implemented internal control system. So once we have this system, we can ensure accuracy of financial reporting and also enhance the transparency. And that's the best way to protect the values of our tangible asset, like school money, basically, and also intangible values, so such as school reputations and our community confidence for our schools. So that's very important. Another thing in my mind is enrollment, flat enrollment. If you see enrollment during the couple of years, past 3, 4, 5 years, the enrollment is pretty much flat. And enrollment is very important. It's directly tied to the education fund we receive. It's also the major factor which decide the school's budget, class size, and also facility utilizations. So it's very important. So I would suggest inclusive, safe, and engaging school environment, and high-quality extracurricular programs, and also better understanding of student education need, better customer service to our customers, basically students and parents. So those things we can improve the enrollment. So basically, that's my opening statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurence. All right, number 3, George.
Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
So I'm George Lyle. I work at Purdue. I'm in the IT security office. I've got 3 kids, one of whom is in the elementary school now, and I've got 2 future Red Devils coming up. One is 2 years old, and one will be 1 next month. I am a trained attorney. I have lived in lots of different places, but that's actually not why I'm here. I'm not here to talk about my accolades. I'm not here to talk about any of my experiences. I'm here because I know what it's like to go without. I'm here because I know what it's like to go to an underfunded, underprivileged school. And when I first moved here, I really couldn't believe where I was because, you know, I never had anything like that when I was a kid. You know, the kids here are given a platform to go anywhere they want to go and do anything they want to do. And my simple message is I'm here running for a seat on the school board to try and keep that good thing going. I'm here to try and keep that good thing going and to make sure that any kid who moves into the district feels like they have a place here, feels like they have a home here. I'm here to make sure that teachers want to be here. And I'm here to make sure that any kid who is designated as underprivileged or by whatever standard can have access to the same things that all the other students in this district can have. And I'm here to help. That was less than 5 minutes, right?
A minute and a half. We're all right. Very good. And Dacia.
Okay, so I think most of you I recognize, but I know there are a few new faces, so I wanted to introduce myself really quickly. My family moved here about 15 years ago when our oldest was getting ready to start kindergarten. So we have 4 kids. All 4 have gone through the school system since kindergarten. 2 have graduated. 1 is in 10th grade and 1 is in 7th grade. So I graduated with a degree in elementary education and taught 5th and 6th Spanish immersion. Here in West Lafayette, I taught at the elementary school, kindergarten, and 1st grade. This gave me a great opportunity to kind of see what things look like behind the scenes. I was a member of the teachers union, and I was advocating for the teachers and how to improve the work environment. We are one of the best states in the school, no one doubts that, but our retention rate of teachers are average. And that shouldn't be. We should have teachers begging to work in our school district instead of choosing to leave our school district and teach in neighboring school districts. When I wasn't teaching, I had the opportunity to volunteer in the schools. I've been on parent council, serving as president, and in various positions. I also in the community served as a Lego robotics coach, softball coach, helped plan activities for our neighborhood association. I mean, as you could tell, I was a teacher. I just wanted to be with kids and families. Currently, I'm actually working on getting a master's in social work with the desire to be a mental health therapist for children and teenagers. So the reason I'm running for school board is to have easy access to public information for all of the community. I want to ensure financial oversight and transparency, and I want to have better support for our teachers. 2 years ago, I did run for school board and was close to winning. And one of the things I wanted to do when I served on the school board was to write a summary after each school board meeting to send to the community so that they could better know what was going on during those meetings. People are busy, sometimes they can't go, sometimes they're there and they don't know the history. And so I thought, this is what I want to do when I get on the school board. Well, when I didn't get on, I thought, wait a second, I still can do this service. And so I started at that time to write summaries and post them on my website and send them out with the desire that the community feels more informed. I also have the desire to have the community have more access to public information. I attended LSC's school board meetings, I attended TSC's school board meetings, and I attended our school board meetings because I was just curious, what does it look like in the different areas? And one of the things that very much surprised me was the difference that West Lafayette had in the amount of information that they were sharing at the school board meeting. For example, the accounts payable. When I went to the TSC meeting and asked about accounts payable, they said, here it is, look at it. They didn't ask who I was, why I wanted to see it. When I asked our school board for it, they said you have to submit a public records request. So I did that. For months I submitted it, and when I would receive it, I would put it on my website so the community would have access to it. Last fall, the school board started posting the accounts payable on their school's website, which was exciting that we now have access there. I submitted a request to have access to the school board packet, and the school board denied it. So I took my denial and appealed it to the Indiana Public Access Counselor, and he ruled that the school board cannot deny the public access to the school board packet. So the school board changed their policy and started putting the school board packet online after the school board meetings. Now this is a big win for our community. We now can go on the website and see the documents that the school board members have looked at as they have done their voting. However, the school board is still refusing to share that information before the meeting. Before the meeting, the community should have access to this information. Before the meeting, the school board should be asking the community for their input. And so this is something that's been very important to me. And through my monthly summaries and through the community pressure, we've been able to do a lot of changes. Some of them have already been shared, and it's exciting. But I will continue to push for more access. Like I said, as I want it easy for everyone, and I want it before the meeting, as well as provide that oversight and transparency that the school board needs.
All right, 4:40, right on the dot. All right. Fantastic, well, thank you all, 4 of you. I really appreciate it. I know it's not easy to sit up in front of people and share your story and talk about your position and why you're running, so I really appreciate that. So now we're going to open it up to questions. One thing I'm really excited about this year for this election is there are lots of different forums like this happening. There was just one last week or so ago at City Hall. There's a couple more coming up, so I think the more times that the community has to meet the candidates, the more times the candidates have to hear from the community, hear what their concerns are, hear what they care about, I think that's great. The more the merrier. So thank you all for doing this one, for doing all the other ones. I know not everybody's going to be able to make it to all of them, and that's great that we have so many, because if you miss one, it's not too big of a deal. So thank you again, really appreciate it. Before we get into questions here, just real quick show of hands so I can get a feel for how many we have. Who's planning on asking a question? Okay, looks like we got 5, 6 or so. We'll do it in random order again, just to make sure that's fair. Can I get your cards back? Or
Sorry, Brady.
did you lose your card? Now I have to use a different suit.
Well, now you're leaving him short of a full deck as well.
You're trying to take it.
It's because I never want to be first again. If I take it out.
No worries. We'll go with hearts this time. Stick with the red theme. Hands up. If you have a question, could you just come up here and I'll make sure I have the right number of cards so we can randomize that.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. 4 questions. All right. 5.
Anybody else wants to ask questions? How much time do we have?
Just a few minutes. I think we all want to be respectful of everybody's time. We want to get through as many questions as possible. People may have more than one question they want to ask, so if there's time, at the end, that's great. You want to go first? All right. All right, we got number 1.
I did.
All right, thank you. Ask away.
Okay, my first question is, what is the process for raising funds for building projects for a school corporation?
For what kind of project?
Building projects.
This specific candidate or everybody?
Yeah, it would be
Okay,
a...
great. Well, we'll just, if the question's open to everybody, we'll just go down the line. Laurence, you want to start with answering that question?
Okay. I
So
think
if I can restate the question. So the question was, what is the process for raising funds for a building process?
projects in the school corporation.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we want to do that, the first thing we need to get input from school staff, or faculties, and also communities, and see if we need to do that. And if we need to do that, and then we will see how we can respond to that. And I think the first things we need to think about is the referendum, and see if our community support that. And if there's more fund we need, we will be seeking some private funding for that project. So that's my answer for the question. Thank you.
George?
So I think, and I could be wrong, but from what I've read, the current process involves a couple of different things. So there's funding that comes from the state, and there's funding that comes from the locality. Now, the state funding has specific buckets that some of it is put in. The locality funding can be used for most things. And then school districts also have the option of raising bonds or taking private donations. And all of the money that is not specifically dedicated to an educational purpose can normally be used for most other things, including construction.
So I think it totally varies depending on how much cash the school district has on hand. I think for most schools, since funding isn't plentiful from the state, that most of their funding is needed for just the operations and the education, paying teacher salaries. And so when capital projects need to happen, typically we have to take out bonds, which means that we, have to accept some level of debt, and there's, debt's unavoidable for schools. I think that in order to do these capital projects, you really have no choice, but there's a difference, I think, between an appropriate level of debt and one that is excessive.
So my understanding from the past is, number one, the bonds. We use funding from the bonds. There's money from the state that can go towards it. Donations, like we're really fortunate to have the West Lafayette Education Foundation that worked hard to raise funds to help cover that. And so I think those are about the 4 areas that goes to construction.
Thank you. As number 2.
Okay. I have a question about the communication between the community and the board. For now, I think the only way you can communicate is attending the board meetings, right? And I know that we have several social media or Facebook groups, forums. We have a page in the West Lafayette School, but we are not able to comment. We have a parent council ones. I tried to put things there, they were not allowed. So there's only one in the Friends forum, but somebody was trying to downplay that, say, oh, that's only for campaign. I wonder how much do you, which other method you consider that could involve more open discussion, the communication. Let's say we can discuss from civil discussion, right? It's instead of the board simply lecture us what should be done, but rather we want to say, okay, we have questions from this angle, from that other angle. We have all different kind of discussions, right? How can we do that?
Thanks. Well, we'll start with George this time. We kind of rotate who we start with. So a question related to what kind of communication style you'd like to see from the school board community?
Well, in all of my other previous positions, I've had to handle some communication matters. Website is obviously the first thing, because that's where all the things should be published, and because websites are typically accessible to anyone with any kind of device, a phone, a tablet, or a computer. But honestly, I kind of want to ask you, what would you like to see? Because everybody has a different preferred way of communicating, and no matter what a body does, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't like that method. So I know that there have been attempts to have coffees with various board members in the past. I know they do have various social media accounts, but the problem with social media accounts, if you open them up, is that excuse me, somebody has to be constantly on guard monitoring for inappropriateness. And I don't know if there's anyone on the board that has the time or the resources to dedicate to essentially being a forum moderator. But what kind of communication would you like to see? Is a specific type of events, or is there a specific channel that you'd like to have them communicate via?
You mean for myself?
Yes.
I want the conversation can be shareable by everybody, can be seen by general public. So I want to see all kinds of angles. Somebody may agree with me, someone will disagree with me. I'm fine with that. So, but I really want to, address some discussions. I tried, in certain posts, I tried to read some functions. I found really a lot of, several people say, just go ask the school board, or go ask the superintendent. That's not the answer I'm looking for, right? Because I know that even one-to-one, I know that a lot of experience here, they never able to get an answer. B, that's only one, I don't have the time to track everything, right? So there's a lot of people have other questions that I'm not thinking of. I want to see them, so I can make, aware of the situation, aware of, everybody's opinion, or even the school board. And also I consider school board should utilize those kind of channels to collect people's feedback.
So surveys then?
It's not a survey, but rather it's a two-way, right? Let's say you said the website. Website is one way. You said your opinion, right? But certainly when I look at that, I only can guess what your position on certain things, but I could never really go back and talk.
So just forgive me, but that's one of the reasons why I asked you what you'd like to see, because I don't want to sound like I'm picking on anybody, but if it needs to be a two-way conversation, then there needs to be two people there.
No.
So anybody that says that they don't have time to go, then you have to resort to email or something else. But there are public meetings, there are public fora, and those are open to the public. And from my own experience, I've been able to walk directly up to Dr. Greiner and ask him whatever I want. And that's something I would hope to continue, and that's something I would encourage, and I would do even more of that where I'm on board. But there are already public meetings there. And
Yeah, but again, right, I would say, how many people can we sit in this room? 40?
What?
How many people can we sit in this room? 40 or 50? Yeah. Right? Then so there will be much more people kind of interested in those kind of conversations, right? That's why we want to say, for example, publish on the YouTube, so that more people can see.
You could easily have meetings in the high school auditorium, I think.
Well, apparently where are they?
That's me bouncing an idea off of you. So that's where we would start. We would start having meetings in the high school auditorium. More people, more chances to speak.
So you were saying that basically should rely on those the meetings, physical meetings, instead of those online discussion forums?
Well, I'm thinking about the desire for two-way conversation versus the limits of trying to receive two-way conversation from all 70,000 people that live in the city at once. So, like I mentioned before,
so that's why
social
I
media
try
channels
to
might not be
promote
the
this,
best.
because this type of thing is really offline, right? So when you have time, everybody, when they go back home and 9 o'clock, when they have time, they go down there, they can see all the conversation, they know their angles, and they can, if they want interesting certain things, they can chip in. And people don't need to really have that same time, same room, a lot of limitations. And could also open to everybody else, say, okay, here's my point, here's your point, then everyone can understand it. Right? So that's what I'm hoping, that we can have an open, transparent discussion about all the issues.
Like right now.
Yeah, but fortunately, I can stay here from now to 10 to 8, actually. I have to leave in a couple minutes. But if not in a different day, I'm occupied and I cannot talk. Right? But on the Facebook or anywhere,
so
I
would
can
you like
choose
to have these
anytime
kind
I
of
do it.
conversations every day? So you want to have something available 7 days a week?
No. But on that one, I could, right? I could, every day take 10 minutes off. I look at scan it, oh, there's some question there. This is interesting to me. Then I want to talk to it. And, unfortunately, there are people kind of trying to discredit that forum. Then I would ask, say, do we have any other place that we can discuss?
Discredit the Facebook forum, you mean?
Yeah.
George, are you okay if we move on
Oh, yeah.
and let some of the other candidates answer and make sure we get plenty of time for everybody's questions?
Yeah, sorry.
Great.
That's
So-
what this is for, it's a conversation.
I actually really appreciate this question because I think it's at the heart of one of my #1 priorities, which is that I really do want information to flow both directions and for the community to be able to get information, have access to it, and then express their ideas about it in a way that the board then can be really well informed about how the community feels and be able to vote accordingly. And in order for that to happen, I agree, we have to get creative about how we're going to have these conversations. I do like going to board meetings. I've been going for 3 years, and when I'm there, I learn a lot. I don't have a lot of two-way conversation. I can make a comment, and then I'm told, thank you, Mrs. Janes, and they move on. So I really do very much appreciate the online options that we have to have discussions. So if I were on the board, I would be pushing for comments on the school's social media page. And yeah, I understand that that's going to require some monitoring, and there's going to be some costs associated with that. In my view, they're worth it.
Some people want Facebook. Now we hear that people are saying they want comments, and so that's something they need to listen to. What I really think our community and what I'm hearing and myself feel is we need a parent advocacy group and a way for parents to interact. with administration, with school board. I think a lot of us were very surprised, and we've been, over the years, learned that parent council is more of a fundraising, administrative, supportive, teacher appreciation group, and that's where it ends. I 100% support teacher appreciation. I know as a teacher, it meant the world to me when parents would come in and do nice things. I want to show my teachers appreciation, but the problem is our parents don't have anyone advocating for their needs. And they never know, is it just my need alone, or is there a lot? So if you remember at the beginning of the year, they started a Saturday feedback session, and Dr. Greiner had just started when they did this, and I attended each of those and thought they were great to interact with him. He was very respectful, and he answered questions, and questions he wasn't able to answer, he said he would get information on. So in my view, it's all of those. I want to see Facebook comments. I know it's going to take time. I want to see sessions where it's let's just communicate. I want to see a school board meeting where when the public makes comments, the school board responds. I do not expect the school board members to know every answer every time. But I do want them to say, okay, if this is your question, I will get back with you with an email. I'll answer next meeting. I want to feel like, I want parents and community members to feel like they're being heard. And then, like I said, is the big thing for me is I want a parent advocacy group to get started so that parents feel like they have somewhere to give their voice and share that.
Yes, I think that's a very good point, and also I think that's something our board should be contribute for that, make that better, because the board members are supposed to be represent, voice the peoples, because everybody in community, they're very busy, they don't have time to track what's going on, this policy, that policy, and they have concerns. Our board members should represent them and voice their voice. So that's one thing, I think, that's one reason, also one reason why I'm joining the board, because I want to come back to listen to the community and present that to the board. So when the company, when our school make decisions, the requirement can be put on into that room, so people can hear that discussion. And also the information from the school, they can transfer to communities, because sometimes, for example, I don't know there's so many special needs kids until I recently campaigned for this, running for the school board, and then I realized all people. And when you see that they really need a special service, but when you talk to, if you have special needs kids, you know that. And when you try to talk with schools, it's very hard for them to get IEP for them. And when you talk to schools, from what I can so far preliminary studies, that's very expensive. IEP, each IEP kid, I mean, they have federal and the state fund for those kids, but our local also, something like double the cost. So our local fund have to pay that for IEP students. So you see, these kind of things, if we have these connections, communications, and then those special group of parents will better understand what's the school situation, and the school can better understand what's the parents, what's their concern. So that's one thing. Another thing is we need, when we talk the communications, there's sometimes we need a right person, because I mean, when you say transparent, here's 100-page fine print, full of tables, financial report. Here's it. I mean, I only want for information in the page 50, and there's only one paragraph. So if you have find the right person, they can answer your question right away. So sometimes we need a connection person to answer the community questions. And another thing, I see our school improve. For example, these budgeting things. We have a list of budgeting, and then they seeking the feedback from communities, also staff members, so we can prioritize those capital projects. So I think that's a very good way to increase the transparency and the communications between all the stakeholders. That's my answer.
Thank you. So that's kind of a big question. I want to give anybody a chance to expand, or if there's something you want to add, feel free. Otherwise, we'll move on. All right. Very good. Number 3.
Yeah, that's me. All right. So I'm Siti Bhattacharya. proud public school parent, yay for public schools. My daughter is in ninth grade and shares a class with many in this room. So I'm very, very proud of my school district. I'm also a Purdue professor, and it's my 20th year. I am not as old as I sound. In 20th year teaching at Purdue. So what I have heard, first of all, thank you for putting this together. This is wonderful. And I have heard, I've followed Dacia's commentary, and really, I'm really so happy that, you know, people are so passionate about change moving forward. And this is a moment for us to share your strategic vision for the district, right? That's a language we've learned from Purdue, strategic vision. So my question is, I have heard from especially three people on the panel, Angie, Dacia, and Laurence, a lot of talk about finance, and I appreciate that. I don't understand numbers very well. I can't even do my taxes very well, but I appreciate someone doing the finances and putting so much scrutiny into the accounts. But if we're going to talk about a strategic vision, aren't we not talking about a huge elephant in the room, which is that over the last decades and continuously, finances have been cut for public education nationwide as well as in our school district. So some of the steps that are being taken by our school board, I think, I don't know this, is to respond to this larger context of continuous denudation and depletion of education funds, okay? This is to do with, in particular, the state of Indiana. So I'm a little bit anxious to be called a consumer and to be told that public schools should run like businesses. So I really want to hear the strategic vision of what we are going to do, or what your vision is for the school board to address this huge elephant in the room, which is cut to public education. How do we solve that problem? What is your vision for that?
Thank you for the question. Angie, you're on the hot seat first this time.
All right, I'll take it. So first of all, I can hear your passion, and I love it, and I share it. I feel like it was really a hard thing when the legislature cut our funding. And particularly, one of the things that makes it particularly hard for our district is that there's a complexity index. And because we don't have as high a number of free and reduced school lunch students, our complexity index does not get us very much money. So we don't really compare very well across the state for funding. And so it's particularly a problem for us. I really actually admire the foresight and the vision to have a referendum. I think we couldn't live without it. I think that those dollars are absolutely necessary for us to keep the quality of our education where it is. But I'm gathering that your question is a little bit bigger than just West Lafayette. And the question that I'm hearing from you, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is a bigger problem, statewide and nationwide. And we need some change in our thinking about the resources that we put toward education, and that we need to value this experience for our kids, the teachers that are providing it, and that is a great question. I do feel like as a school board member, there's not a lot of control I will have over that issue, but I will have a voice. And I would be inclined to go to the State House and share my voice and my thoughts that we need better funding for our
Can I just
schools.
say quickly one thing? I appreciate that. Just to clarify, I don't mean political lobbying necessarily, right? But which would be great if you did that. But I also meant like the education fund was basically created because the state is cutting the sources of funding, right? So I'm interested to hear, these are creative solutions that the school board tried to come up with to account for this deficit that the state cut. And, you know, I want to hear those kind of specific plans that you might have as school board members to work in collaboration with other members as to how you want to do, like, do you have a plan? Because when the budget comes out, there's going to be less money for the schools, then how do we get about it?
So can I still respond? Okay. So I think the specifics are one of those things that we're going to have to pull together as a community. I honestly believe that the more resources we pull together, the more ideas, the more input, the better thoughts we're going to have about how to solve these problems. In my own mind, without having consulted the community first, I would say, number one, keep the referendum and keep those funds flowing in. I would also say that we have quite a few resources, even just within our community. But in addition to our community, there are national resources, there are grants, there are just different sources of funding that you could earn based on, you know, meeting some specific academic goal or something. And so I would be inclined to search those out and, you know, see how we could maybe tweak a program that we're already working to have it be appropriate for a particular grant. So I think there are other funding sources out there, and I think we should get creative about looking for them, and I think we should involve the community in finding out, you know, in thinking of ways to do it.
So I think one of the great things that our current school board and previous administration did was the referendum. They have allowed us to pass it twice in our community, 2010 and 2017. They worked hard and they did a fantastic job. Our community is where it's at today because of that work and effort. So I very much appreciate that effort. The other outside the box thinking that they began when these funding issues started coming down the pipeline was the foundation. So our community has set up 2 areas to help with the education funding. So in my view, it's continuing forth with that, but addressing some of the concerns that we now are dealing with. We have a referendum that needs to be approved again in 2024. And my biggest concern is I don't know if our community right now would pass it. They have a lot of questions. $95 million was borrowed. They still have not gotten answers of where that money went. And so in my view, one of the biggest strategic plans as a school board that I think that needs to be talked about now and with the new members is how do we regain the trust of the community? And in my view, it's hire an investigation to go out and show the community how the money was spent. I'm not saying that there's any sort of, like, I'm not bringing up all these other words of fraud and things. I just want to know how they spent the money. And so an investigation needs to come in and do that, and then the school board needs to share how they're going to have future oversight of the money, because unfortunately they've borrowed money, so I think it's 2038, 2033, I don't know, I wrote down all these numbers, 2039. We have debt payments that's going to go up until 2039. In 2039, we're going to owe $7.5 million. Today we owe $5.7 million in debt service, and it's just going to go up until 2039. So in a lot of ways, our hands are tied for decisions that were already made for our construction. But my view is referendum and using the foundation and the community is how we need to move forward and maintain the level of excellence that we're at.
Yes, I think that's a very good question. I also think about that question too. But in terms of funding of schools, I mean, in near future, say our Indiana, say last time the budget in Republic, I think probably somebody already got a refund from the state tax for last year's. So our state have a pretty good revenues, monies to support higher education. But back to your question, in the long run, I mean, I think if you look at the whole nation, I mean, especially the coast area, the enrollment is just going down a lot during the last several years. When I say our have flat enrollment, that's not bad. We did a pretty good job compared with other school district, I mean nationwide, so we can't flag. So this is why there's people drop off and they don't go to public school. It still answer the question. Maybe the pandemic is reason. See some jobs because of the pandemic things now become permanent, cannot bounce back. So the reason nobody knows yet. But what we can do is enrollment. So that's why I'm thinking we need to improve our education quality. That's the service to our community. And basically, that's the bottom line of school. Why we have school? Because we want to educate our kids, right? So we want to keep the enrollment going up. So the fund comes with the enrollment with students. So we need, for example, during the last month, the door-to-door campaigns, I talked to other people. So far, I see 3 people, they left our school. So one is his kids have some special need and cannot find the need he needs, so he just left. Another one is cannot work with the teacher. So several communication with teacher, and then you just think, oh, we just go to online. So go to Indiana online. There are some online schools. Another one just say I totally lost the confidence of public education, so just homeschooling or something like that. They don't like the curriculums, everything. So basically, there's so many options for the kids. So our school have to be make the education good education for the people, for the kids, and also we need a lot of communications, service, kind of customer service, but I don't want to say that. But we serve the students, serve the parents. We really want to know what they really need and what we can provide, so we can attract them, attract new students, keep returning the existing students. So by this way, we provide the best service of students, and then we can keep the school enrollment. So from the long run, that's my vision about our school. So then that's my question. Yes, thank you.
So ultimately, it's going to take all of us. So there's a referendum that's going to be planned in the future. We need to work hard to get that passed. We need to be good stewards of the resources that we have and to steward them better in the future. We also need to talk to people outside of this community, because ultimately there has to be some change made at the state level as well. And this community is a little bit of a bubble compared to the rest of the county and most of the rest of the state. So we need to be actively engaged with other people to let them know that this is a problem that affects them as well. And if we want to change it, then everybody's going to have to advocate for change at the State House. And one specific thing I think that the district could do for itself right now, in addition to all the things it already does, is perhaps consider hiring a grant writer. Because a grant writer is a specific talent who can seek out those alternate sources of funding, those grants from foundations and other companies, and bring those dollars into the schools. I think that that'd be a worthwhile investment of a single position that could potentially bring in even millions of dollars from other grant-giving organizations to boost the funding and seal the gap between what we want from the state and what we're getting from the state.
Thank you.
Thank you. Another big question. Let me give you guys another opportunity to expand if anybody wants to.
I would like to make a comment about that. I think that that's a really interesting proposition, George, and the idea of having somebody specifically focusing on writing grants could be really helpful to us. I wonder if we would have resources in the community who would be willing to do it on a volunteer basis.
Well, that's the same problem we have with moderating a giant Facebook page. So we want people to invest that kind of time and potentially put themselves under that kind of stress. We should probably pay them for it.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Thank you all. That was number 3, so number 4. All right. Thank you.
I'm Frances Good. I have 4 children, and I've been associated with the school since 2004. And I have children who graduated as recently as 2020. So I've seen a lot of change over the time that I've lived here. And my question is not a really big question like the last person's question was. My question is just about some data that has really concerned me, and I'm just wondering how you as board members would handle it, what you would do. Dacia might have an idea because it relates to Cumberland, as I call it, and I've always called it and still call it. The statistics for the academic success of children of colour, black children, are very worrying at Cumberland. And we've got on, with the best school in Indiana, with da-di-da, people are winning awards right, left and centre, we've got people going to the, Ivy League, yada yada. But what about those kids who come and either because they've not got support at home or because they have a special need? What are we doing about those children? Because it doesn't seem to have changed in the 20 years I've lived here. Kids, I have a friend who has a Down child. They had to leave West Lafayette and go to the county because they just wouldn't educate him. And time again this happens to parents, that because their child is not a cookie cutter kid, they get shoved out, either they can't get an IEP or whatever, and it's just wrong. I know I'm white, middle class, but I am a foreigner, and I do have I do have felt like a foreigner since I've moved here, because the American way is so different. What are we doing about those kids who are falling through the gaps? And how, as a school board, can you try to make sure that everybody gets the same leg up as possible, or an equal leg up?
Thank you for the question. Dacia, you're first this time.
Yes, but I have to disagree. I think that's a loaded question you just asked. And I think it's a great question, and I think it's something that we need to be taking seriously in our school district. I think there's so many answers. The first one I would say as an elementary school teacher is we need our class sizes down for these teachers. There's students that are coming in, the special needs, the struggles from home. There was one year I taught kindergarten, over half of my class did not know the letters of the alphabet. These are 5-year-olds that are coming into kindergarten. They don't know how to count. But these were kids that weren't fed breakfast. They didn't have a snack. This was just, they were coming from a different experience. I have a class of 24 kids. Half of them are there. I have special needs, ADHD, autistic, let's talk about language, all of those. And you put 24 5-year-olds, and I can give as much love as I can, but I just can't meet their needs. And truthfully, what it looks like more today is even more mental health issues are coming in the door. So I think one thing is prioritizing getting the class sizes down, especially in the younger grades. But I think the bigger thing is the thing that I'm pushing for, and several are pushing for, is just the open dialogue. We need teachers' voices being heard. We need parents' voices being heard. We need an open conversation and bring up this topic. How can we reach these families? There's some great things being done. I don't know if she's still doing it now as the principal, but I know Principal Delaney, she was going in to the apartment complexes and providing services after school in our own hours and bringing teachers in.
And librarians, actually, because we were going from the library.
So, and I know, like I said, this is pre-pandemic, and I don't know where it's at right now, but things like that was awesome, but that was just a small thing. And I think the more, we need to have more dialogue on all these topics. There are kids younger and in the high school that are struggling, that don't feel safe, that are bullied, that are discriminated against, and we need them to be sharing their input and them to be saying, this is what we need, and be more willing to listen and make those changes than just focus on only the positive. We have so much positive in our school district. I love our school district, that's why I live here and send my kids here. But we need to also look at the struggling issues and the struggling students and prioritize them more, in my opinion.
Laurence?
Yes. Yeah, I understand your question. Basically, you just talk about the disadvantage for special need student. Basically, you trying to see how to close the achievement or performance gap between these so-called disadvantage, also very high ability. Is that what you?
Well, I was just looking at the real estate figures. When you go on to, you're looking to buy a house, and you have the statistics, and it has you know, the breakdown of academic achievement
Okay.
by race, and black children are right down, you know, there aren't very many of them. I think it's 6%, but the scores are awful. And I just think we need to be looking at that, because that's not a representation of our community. I work in the library, and we do a lot. I buy books, and we buy a lot of books that are very inclusive, and there are families using them and they love it, but it seems to be when they get to the school, there isn't that acceptance of the breadth of the community.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question, but I don't think I have an answer for you because that's I'll tell you the truth. I don't think I have an answer for you. But I mean, if you look at even the history of no matter which country you look around, there are always a student, you know, just kind of cannot achieve that achievement, and the reason may varies because it's financial situation. Each person is different, or maybe his overall abilities cannot catch up. You know, but from a school point of view, we have a lot of programs, right? Our school have a lot of programs help them to achieve what they need. So we have extra resources allocated specifically for them. So basically, we still give everybody opportunities, education opportunities, so they can change these things. But there are always some people cannot make it. So I don't know the answers. Thank you.
George? So, I came from one of those kinds of places. The high school I went to in Indianapolis, my freshman class had about 1,000 people. Roughly 225 of us actually graduated on time. And this is the answer that no one wants to hear, particularly in state government, but the answer to most of those questions is almost always money. Because when you have before and after school programs for poor kids, and they have a place to go where they can get their homework done, where they can get a snack, where they can get maybe even dinner if they don't have dinner at home, achievement rises. When they're not at home in a home that perhaps doesn't have heat, and they're able to stay at school either in the morning or in the evening and get things done and interact with teachers and librarians, achievement rises. And to pay for more counseling staff and more interventional staff for kids with disabilities or kids who need individualized education plans, that needs money as well. So that ties into the answer that we were talking about before. We need to draw as much funding from as many sources as we can, for as long as we can, to pay for all the things that we need to make sure that every student starts out on the same footing. So when I talk often about making sure every kid has a place here, and I'm serious about that. And because I live that life, I'll do whatever it takes.
So recently, Dr. Greiner sent out a survey, and one of the items on it was, how much do you value education for the whole child? And I was really happy to see that, because I feel like trying to pound a round peg into a square hole doesn't work very often. And so when we are looking at these kids on either side of the bell curve, whether it's for disability or a race that is not the dominant race, whatever the reason is that takes them outside of the average, they have different needs than the average does. And the only way for us to be able to meet those needs is to have some academic flexibility. To be able to say, you know what, this is working for 70, 80% of our kids, but we've got 20% that it's not working for, and we need to find new strategies to meet their needs. I do think that class sizes is a big part of that. I think teachers are overwhelmed when their classes are so full, and the diversity among their students is huge, and so they've got, you know, kids who are like off the charts, and then they've got kids who can't quite keep up, and they're trying to meet all of those needs. I think that's a huge job. And so I feel like getting class sizes down will help teachers be able to be a little more flexible. I also think at the board level, we could make some policy changes that would impact a teacher's flexibility to be able to meet those needs. I think that it's really, really important to look at each individual kid. I have a special needs daughter, and last year she was really struggling in science, and that fantastic teacher took her and 3 other kids in the class, and for the last 2 weeks of the quarter, pulled them aside, and while the other kids were working on their work for the day, these 3 or 4 kids met with that teacher for the last 20 minutes of class. Her grades skyrocketed. The fact that that teacher cared enough about her to help her with each specific assignment, she didn't want to let him down. That's what we need. We need more of that, but I don't see how teachers can provide that when they've got 25, 30 kids in their class.
Any follow-up? Anybody?
Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. We're at number 5 now. Who has number 5?
Actually, echoing to Angie's point, I worked as a paraprofessional at the West Lafayette High School for a short period of time. That's how the school take care of the individual difference. Because for the teacher, they have so much workload, it's impossible. Even though downsize the class, it won't help. Because for some severe student with special needs, they really need one special paraprofessional, one-to-one. I mean, it's impossible to solve that with the teachers' workload and all that. And I also want to ask Angie, from your agenda, you say one of your agenda is to celebrate diversity. When I was in West Lafayette High School, after the renovation of the cafeteria, the school took down all the international flags. That breaks my heart, because when I send my kid to other high school for like music festival, the moment I walk in, when I saw all the international flag and when I see my own country's flag, I feel welcome. So I voiced out that issue, but the principal just gave me excuse. He said, "Oh, 1 or 2 of the flag was broken. We need time to amend it." And I'm thinking, does that take so many years? Because the school cafeteria renovation has been done for 2 years now. How long does he have to take, to work on that, to put all the flag up? I mean, even some teachers, when I was working there, asked the same question, where are those flags? Where are they now? They're in the storage room? I mean, that's the first impression that I feel not welcome. So I'm thinking, in your agenda, what specific step will you take to celebrate diversity to make, because we say US is a melting pot, right? Especially West Lafayette is a college town, many people, many elites coming from all over the world. So how can we accommodate that identity, because the kids does have identity crisis. They are thinking, some of them were born here, but their family are from other countries. So sometimes when I ask them, how do you feel your identity? Like from a church youth group, they will say, confused. They don't know whether they are, like for me, whether they are Chinese or American, because they have yellow skin, but they have the white culture, stemming from the moment they were born. So I'm thinking, what will you do to promote the diversity, so that the kids can have won't be bullied or discriminated against and have hostile to me, and I look different, to them and everything.
It sounded like there were 2 parts to that question.
I also have questions for other candidates. Can I ask
Can we go one at a time and then let everybody answer, and then if we have time we can come back? So it sounded like there were like 2
I'm
parts.
afraid I might not have enough time. Can I just throw the question first?
Well, I
So
think
that the
you've
candidate
asked 2 questions already. I want to make sure there may be other people that have questions too, so I want to make sure that everybody gets an opportunity. So that
I just want to
there were
throw
2
the question
questions
so that they
that
can have time to think about it.
I'm going to restate it and then make sure that I got it. So I heard a couple of questions in there. One related to supporting teachers given the workload that they have. And then the second component was how do you celebrate diversity? So let's cover those topics first, and then if there's time at the
Yeah,
end.
other than paraprofessional, actually, they also have IEP, individual education plan, to accommodate each individual's special need to take care of the individual needs. Those are a very good step. And starting from last fall, the high school also started to employ a behavior specialist, because this kind of special needs student always have a behavior problem, ADHD, autism, attention deficit disorder, that kind of thing. So it is a good start, yeah. But
Thanks, Laurence. I think we're back to you to get to go first. So.
Yeah, I think the first question regarding the compensation for the paraprofessional, I think we need those stable paraprofessionals, staff members. They still can make a lot of help. Right now, I just recently looked at the website. For paraprofessionals, there's about $12 per hour. So that's a little bit, I think a little bit low. So I think probably need to improve that. Otherwise, the turnover, high turnover is not good for kids. And once you have enough paraprofessionals, at least the professional educators, special ed people, they can concentrate on their works. So that, I think that's very important. And regarding the diversity, I think we have to create an inclusive and welcoming learning environment, and also safe environment. No discriminations. Everybody feel welcome. That kind of learning environment. So that school should do that for the diversities. That's my answer for the question. Thank you.
So stories like that are why I'm glad there are people like you around. Because you being from a specific culture and a specific place can answer those questions in a way that many of the rest of us can't. So we definitely need to encourage more of that, to get more and many different types of people who are available, whether in a professional capacity or even a volunteer capacity, to answer questions that a student might have. Now that's something I do think would benefit the community greatly, is if there are a roster of people who are just signed up to be willing to talk. You know, a student could look through it and say, okay, well this person sounds like somebody I might be familiar with, or somebody that I might want to emulate myself after, and then just have a conversation. So I think that could go a long way toward fostering inclusion as well. So, and I was on the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee for the district last year. And believe me, the work is being done, but it is a continuous work. It's continuous improvement. And so they have a DEI coordinator now. She's been working in the schools, but she needs support. Excuse me. But we've all been through high school. The high school is the best and the roughest time of your life. And so this is again one of those situations where we need everybody's involvement. So the school has a role to play, but we all have a role to play too. So, be willing to let a student reach out to you. Be willing to just take somebody aside and say, hey, what do you need? Or hey, maybe we can talk. And that's something I want to encourage more of. Because I think everybody here has a stake in the success of our students. And that's one way that we could certainly make that real for everybody here, is if we gave people the chance to have the option to ask a student to ask them, hey, can you help?
So my daughter, who graduated in 2019, I think, was just hired on to be a paraprofessional in the school district where she's going to college. And she has been at work, I think, 4 days. And she said, Mom, it was crazy. I walked into the school and they said, here's your kid. She got no training, she didn't get to see the file to find out what the diagnosis was. She got very little information. Now, I will confess, I don't know how our district does with that. I don't know how we compare to the district that she's working in. But I would say that might be where I would start, is to make sure that our paraprofessionals are getting training and getting access to information to help them do their jobs well. And of course, I agree, it would be so perfect to have one-on-one for all of these kids. I don't know if that's a realistic funding goal, But working toward that, I think, would be a worthy achievement. And then I wanted to mention about the inclusive feel of our schools. I think it's really interesting, your reaction to the flags and how just seeing your own country's flag made you feel welcome.
I remember feeling exactly the same.
Did
when
you?
I went into the school. Yeah, definitely, when I saw the flag.
See, I just love that, and having been born and raised in the United States, I wouldn't have known it. I wouldn't have realized that how that impacted you. So this kind of goes back to that whole communication point. I would love to have an avenue for people to be able to express those kinds of feelings and feel like it's going to be heard by the administration. And what do you know, if 30 people write in and say, we missed these flags, I bet they make it back up. So I just think it's so important to have that communication. And one last point I wanted to make about just the inclusive feel is that I think our kids need a resource that they can go to when they feel like they have been marginalized or bullied. I've heard way too many stories of kids who graduate and then talk about the experiences they've had. When they were going through them, they didn't even tell their parents. We've got to do something about that. These kids have got to have a place to go where they feel safe, that they can say, this is what's happening to me, and be believed and feel like there is going to be some sort of action taken.
On the paraprofessional topic, I agree that they are vital to so many students and teachers in making a difference. And so I would want to hear from the paraprofessionals that we have and the teachers to say how can we better support them? Do they feel supported? How much training are they getting? And get more information from the ones that we have so we can retain them. And from the teachers, because I know as a teacher myself, the paraprofessionals made a world of difference. So I think that's a great thing to bring up, and hopefully we can get more information on that, and that will be discussed more. Also, your topic of celebrating diversity, I just loved. And like Angie said, bringing up the point of the flags and hearing how meaningful it is. There's a lot of great things we do. We have the one culture night the high school does. The elementary school used to do the art night where they brought in different cultures. And so I think we need to do more of this. We need to open it up to the community and do more. And to me, it all just continues to tie back to open dialogue and sharing information. Is the information out there? Maybe there is information already collected about paraprofessionals and none of us know it. And so the more information that we can be, that can be shared with us, I just think that will make a world of difference. And I think we need to continue to listen to these suggestions because they're great suggestions.
Thank you. Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time. This has been a lot of fun. It's gone really fast. And I've really enjoyed hearing everybody's answers. I do want to give the candidates just a real quick wrap up, so we can do like 1 minute closing statements. That'd be awesome. We are going to have another one of these sessions November 2nd, so stay tuned for information on time and location. It's fantastic that everybody came out, and it was great to hear everybody's questions. Let's just do a 1 minute round. We'll randomize it again, so we'll bring out the different suits, and Angie stole my ace.
Watch out, I'm still this
Yeah,
one
you're going
too.
to take another one, I'm sure.
Oh, I got the eggs to lose.
All right, keep it to 1 minute, please. I'll give you a flag when you get to a minute.
Is there one Tuesday also?
I think there may be an event coming up on Tuesday.
Yes.
It's where's it, Willis?
It's at Willis, and it's the government teacher, Mr. Jost, and then AP government students. And my understanding is it's all 6 candidates agreed to come to that one. And so it won't be open like this, but they will have opening statements. The students will ask questions and then a closing statement.
So it is open to the public, right?
It is, yep. On
So
Tuesday.
Willis
Not just
on
November
Tuesday.
2nd, but next Tuesday would be.
Yeah, there's another one.
To listen to.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome that you guys are doing all these. It's not easy. I really appreciate it. All right, who got the ace?
I did.
All right, Dacia, you got a minute.
So I would just recommend, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of rumors being passed around on everything. And I just recommend going to the website and reading about each candidate's views. I've tried to put any questions people have and write about it and put it on my website. I also do have a contact information, so if there are questions I haven't answered, I would love to answer them and clarify where I stand. So I appreciate your time and letting me be here.
Thank you, Dacia. Number 2, George. All right.
I just want to thank everybody for coming. Thank everybody for showing interest. Like I said at the beginning, I'm here to help. And I conveniently brought some pamphlets with me, so if anybody would like to take one, I certainly have them. But again, thank you all.
Thank you, George. Number 3.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for Brady host this forum, and thank you for everybody to come in. Basically, when you talk about public school is service to public, to everybody, no matter what is your background, colors, everything. And also, public school is funded by public, and also it should be managed by public. So, with my background in financial and business affairs, I think I will be the good plus for our school board. And regarding the communications, I would be the communication for everybody. I represent people's voice, and also I will understand what's going on in the administration in the schools, so I can, as a bridge between the community and the corporation. So that's my purpose for running for the school board. And my name is Laurence Wang. Thank you.
Thank you.
I found my stolen A's.
Very good. Thank you. You can use them again next time.
I just want to thank you all for coming. I really love this community. I really appreciate the focus on education and the passion that you all show in being here. I just think that drives a fantastic school district. And so I'm grateful to be a part of it. I would say that if you have questions and either didn't want to come up and grab a card, or if you didn't get to ask them all, I would be happy to stay around and chat. I think that really, when it comes right down to it, public service is about being accessible to the public. And I want to hear your ideas and your questions, and I think that's how we achieve the success that we want to see in all of these different areas and questions that we've talked about. The way we progress is by all of us working together. And so I'm grateful for that. Well, you know.
All right, thank you so much. And I think that the fact that, I mean, you're giving your time to come here and answer questions that you don't know what's coming at you, and think on your feet, it's really impressive. Thank you all for coming out. You know, I think that the fact that we had 25 people or so show up to this on a night that the Colts were playing speaks volumes, you know, to our community, and I just want to reiterate how lucky I feel to live in this town. I have no idea what's going to happen on November 8th. I have no idea who's going to win the vote totals, but I think at the end of the day, we've got 6 fantastic candidates that are passionate about our kids, and I know that regardless of what happens, West Lafayette wins. And I just want to thank everybody again for coming out, and especially the candidates.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Brady.